Rec-
Hello, and welcome to the Mindful Caregiver Breathing Circle. So, if you're coming here for the first time, thank you so much for checking this out, for tuning in. And if you're coming back, welcome back. I am appreciative of your presence and of you sharing this space, not just with me, but with so many other caregivers that are tuning in to this session, but also tuning within. My name is Sabrina. I am a mindfulness teacher, a meditation instructor, and an intuitive healer. And what I like to do is I like to teach people about their inner world so they can better navigate the world around them. And in these mindful caregiver breathing sessions, just a few things that are important to know before we go forward. Each session is recorded, and they are all sessions that are standalone sessions. This simply means that you don't have to see any other session for you to gain insight or knowledge or any understanding of what's going on. So if this is your first session, welcome. You don't have to check out anything else. You are exactly where you need to be, and you've got all that you need right with whatever you're taking with you today. So each session is broken down into 3 different parts. The first part is we set intention, and I share an affirmation or a phrase with you for the day, for this session, that if it works and if it resonates with you, then I offer that you ground into that as an intention throughout the session. The second part of the session is we dive a little bit deeper into a dharma talk, which will stem from the intention itself. And I'll share a quote or maybe a passage from a mindfulness book that really resonates with the topic of the day. And from there, the third part of the session will move into the mindfulness meditation practice. So if you've never meditated before, if you're a complete beginner to mindfulness, don't worry. Everything that I offer is very practical, very, very tangible, and super beginner friendly. And the one thing I like to always offer my students and my community and those that are tuning in with me is whatever you are bringing with you these are the perfect conditions. Come as you are. It is the exact curriculum that you need to work through whatever it is that you're going through that's going on within you. And I assure you that you have the tools that you need. Maybe you just need to uncover them, but they're already inside you. And hopefully, I guide you there with a little bit more peace and ease. So let's go ahead and begin. Today's intention I want to share with you is, and also the phrase and the affirmation that I'd like to share with you is, today I choose to love and accept myself completely as I am. Today I choose to love and accept myself completely as I am. So today's intention overall is about self-compassion. And more specifically, it's about self-talk and noticing and being mindful of our self-talk. So self-talk is that inner dialogue that's constantly going on inside of our head. And sometimes it's a kind and compassionate voice. Maybe it's a voice that's proud of our accomplishments, of checking things off our to-do list throughout the day. And then other times it's an inner critic that reminds us that we're not enough, that lets us know that there's not enough time in the day, we don't have enough arms and legs, and we're not enough of one person to go around. And I believe that this is particularly resonant to caregivers because you are coming from such a loving and compassionate space of service. Whether this is a professional endeavor or this is maybe an unfortunate or unforeseen circumstance that found you in your life, and you rose to that occasion to become a caregiver for someone you know or love. And no matter how you found yourself becoming a caregiver, stepping into that role and responsibility, service to others, support and help toward others is a part of your identity. It's a part of who you are and what you do and the ways that you show up. And so self-talk when it comes to caregivers can be particularly interesting because it is very easy to feel like you are not enough. It is very easy to feel like there's not enough of you to go around, or you don't have enough solutions to provide to those that you care for. You don't have enough time in the day to offer yourself to them, but also to yourself or to your family or to your needs and your desires and your personal responsibilities. So one of the main issues that we're going to be focusing on today, because I like to break these sessions down in what's the problem, what's the solution, what's the practice, right? So the problem that we're going to be focusing on is expecting too much of yourself or believing that you are not enough, or believing the narrative that you are not enough. And so I'd like to share a quote with you by Nicole Davis. And it goes like this: mindfulness is a simple practice, but not an easy one. But you are worth doing hard things. I think that's a very important reminder. It's simple, and it's one of those maybe cliche things that we hear or we tell other people and kind of just roll off of our tongue. But it's important to take a moment and just sit with that and contemplate that you are worth doing hard things. And if it is not programmed in your thinking to believe that you are worth doing hard things, then that inner critic may rise and kind of take over as your inner dialogue, as the voice that you hear most often. And that inner critic will convince you that you're not worth doing those hard things, and that your time should be spent toward others, serving, giving, helping, and that your needs maybe should just go on the back burner. You'll find time for that later. You can do that another time, right? And now this goes for everyone, not just caregivers, but caregivers in particular, because especially if these are people that you've grown fond of, you love and you care for, you want the best for them. And if they're not in a position to offer that, and you believe that you are in a position to offer that for them, it almost feels like a no-brainer. And you want to give and you want to provide. But sometimes, if we're not careful, we forget that we need to be provided for. That the hard things that we're so willing to do for others without a thought, we need to become willing just as much to do those things for ourselves. So the solution to today's problem, which is the problem is expecting too much of yourself or believing you are not enough. And the solution is recognize the tone and the judgments of your self-talk. So now we'll go ahead and we'll move into the Dharma talk. I want to share a passage with you from, if you've been with me through these sessions, then you know I constantly go back to this book. I think I've only used one other book as a passage, like to pull a passage from. I love this book. I cannot rave about it enough. It's called Wherever You Go, There You Are. And it's by Jon Kabat-Zinn. I want to make sure it's not too blurry. You could see that. Very, very simple read. And he breaks down mindfulness in such a relatable, understanding, and practical way. So you'll find tips and stuff throughout this book. And I found a passage that explains the difference between awareness and thinking. And it's important to distinguish the two because we spend so much time in our minds that we may forget that thinking is not the only thing that our mind can do. It can become aware, it can observe, it can notice. Thinking isn't always as productive. And so it's important to distinguish thinking and awareness. And I thought that this passage really summed that up. So I'll share that with you now. Awareness is not the same as thought. It lies beyond thinking, although it makes use of thinking, honoring its value and its power. Awareness is more like a vessel which can hold and contain our thinking, helping us to see and know our thoughts as thoughts rather than getting caught up in them as reality. So that last line is something I'd really like to bring our focus to right now, helping us to see and know our thoughts as thoughts, to know our thoughts as thoughts. Another way of saying that is to recognize that not everything you think is a fact. So keep that in mind as we move through this. Know our thoughts as thoughts rather than getting caught up in them as reality. So if we spend enough time in our mind, we can really convince ourselves to believe just about anything. There's a lot of stories, and I like to use the word narrative. There's a lot of narratives going on in our mind. The narrative of should comes up a lot, especially when we carry responsibilities over other people. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I'm expected of these things. And these are all inner dialogues. These are all conversations we're having with ourselves. And if you have a conversation with yourself and only with yourself for long enough, you're going to convince yourself that that is true. And that narrative soon solidifies as a belief. And then that belief becomes what you perceive in the world around you. And so something that your mind convinced you should be doing became a strong rooted belief in how you show up, not just for yourself, but for those around you. And there is an interesting balance that comes with caregiving. In my own personal experience, when I was a much more hands-on caregiver for my mom, I recognized that there is a part of me that wholeheartedly, unconditionally wants to give and serve and provide in ways that she can no longer, care for herself. And then there's another part of me that became overwhelmed by that first part because there were no boundaries set. And so there's this interesting balance of caring for others while recognizing our own care matters as well. And that balance comes into play when you may be the sole caregiver of someone. You may be the one that knows them best, that cares the most, or maybe that's a narrative that you're telling yourself, right? But either way, maybe that is true. Maybe that narrative is your truth right now. You are also the only one that's going to love you in the best way possible, in the highest way possible, with your best interest in mind. And so coming back to the passage of recognizing our thoughts as thoughts. First, we must become aware of when we're thinking. And again, it sounds super simple, but that awareness is happening also in our mind. And so we want to make sure that, as Eckhart Tolle says, the ego doesn't come through the back door and trick us and suddenly we're thinking again. And so we want to become aware of when we are thinking. So then we can become aware of what we're thinking. We can become aware of the patterns of thought. And from there, we can observe our self-talk. So in a moment, I'm going to guide us through a meditation. And the practice of today is to observe the difficult thoughts about yourself and your capabilities. So as always, I extend a space of compassion and non-judgment. And I hold this space for you in the hopes that you can meet yourself there too. You can meet yourself in a place of non-judgment and compassion by choosing to become aware of your thinking. And notice when you get caught thinking about your thinking, because it will happen. This is the absolute nature of the mind. It's to move and shift and get hooked on one thought, and then you'll get hooked on another and another and another. And so I offer the attitude of non-judgment and self-compassion, because if you meet yourself with judgment and with a sense of harshness, then now you're going to be thinking about your thinking. You're going to be labeling how you're thinking all the time. And then comes the should. Well, I shouldn't be thinking this. I should be thinking that. And then through the back door comes that ego telling us we're not enough as we are right now. So the biggest piece, alongside the intention of today I choose to love and accept myself completely as I am, the biggest piece I can add on to that is to offer and extend yourself self-compassion and grace and absolute, like, do your best. I won't say absolute if you're meeting yourself here in these places for the first time, but do your best to extend some non-judgment, because you are going to meet parts of yourself, whether it's through today's mindful meditation or just throughout your life experience. You're going to meet parts of yourself that are unpleasant, that aren't comfortable, that you may have shame or guilt around and you want to improve or change. And so I offer you one of the most uncomfortable gifts ever, and that is to hold space for you while you meet these parts of yourself. That is going to be uncomfortable for you, to meet those parts of yourself. But reassuring yourself that you are whole and you are complete is the first step to not just becoming aware of how you're speaking to yourself, but also the first step to recognizing that you can change that dialogue. It's not about being easy. Remember, it is simple, as we spoke about. Mindfulness is a simple practice, but not an easy one. But you are worth doing hard things. And so my last reminder, before I continue to ramble on this Dharma discussion here, my last reminder as we enter this practice is that the mind will wander. You will become distracted. You will become hooked on a thought. The purpose of mindfulness and mindful meditation is not to clear your mind, and it's certainly not to stop thinking. Mindfulness is simply another word for awareness. We're noticing, we're observing. And so when you find yourself thinking, if you're hooked on a thought, become aware of that. Come back to the breath. Come back to the intention that we've anchored into, and keep coming back as many times as you need to. The present moment doesn't go anywhere. It's always here waiting for us to return. So on that note, let's go ahead and begin. Remove this table here. Try to get out of the sun a little bit. Okay. So if this is your first time meditating, welcome. That's really cool. I'm glad that you're here. Most importantly, I want you to find a nice, comfortable posture that you can sit in for the next 15 or so minutes. And you want to, as much as you can, ground into your body. So You can place your feet flat on the ground beneath you, or you can have them cross-legged if that's comfortable for you. If you'd like, you can lay down as long as you do your best not to fall asleep. And you can have your legs flat or your knees bent and your feet flat on the ground or the mat beneath you. And just bringing our attention quickly to our posture. We're going to drop our shoulders away from the ears. We're going to try to keep our back as straight as possible without being rigid. And our hands, to the best of your ability, keeping them grounded on your body. So if you have like an armchair, some armrests on the side, I ask that you keep your hands a little closer inward so you can have them face down or face up on your lap, or you can clasp them this way, and imagine that there's like a nice big wheel that you're holding on to. This will help keep your shoulders back, and your hands in a comfortable position so that if you start to slouch, kind of have that visual to just bring you back. But above all else, listen to your body, whatever's comfortable for you. And if it's available to you, if it's something that resonates, you can begin to shut your eyes now or soften your gaze. And just take a moment to tune into the body, into where you feel the breath in the body. We're not changing anything about the breath. We're simply noticing. So notice, where do you feel the breath? Where did it first catch your attention? And what part of your body? Noticing how it fluctuates in and out. Now I invite you to expand your awareness to the quality of your breath. Is your breath shallow or deep? Rigid or smooth? Is it quiet or a little louder? Are you breathing free and clear? Or is there maybe some obstruction you're experiencing? The breath is a wonderful reminder, not just of the present moment, because that is the only place that it can exist, but also the ebbs and flows of our inner world, our thoughts, emotions, physical sensations. And just as we can watch the belly rise and fall, or we can notice the quality of our rigid or smooth, quiet or loud breath, we can notice other fluctuations that are happening within us. And we can practice awareness rather than thought. When we begin to think, we create stories that trail off and hook us onto even more thoughts that go on in an endless sea of thinking. No direction, just moving through the past or through the future, but definitely away from the present moment. When we choose awareness, we choose the present moment, the here and now, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. We can learn by practicing to simply watch how it unfolds, and even watch as we have urges arise within us to change things, to improve things. We can watch our thoughts and our feelings and the physical sensations that accompany them. And as we keep coming back to awareness, we expand our awareness and our capacity to hold it for longer periods of time. So now that I've introduced the breath and you've expanded your awareness to the ways in which your body breathes, I want to offer the breath as an alternative anchor into the present moment. If ever you get lost in thought and distraction, the breath is always here waiting for you. And if you need a more tangible phrase to hold on to anchor into, to remind you of today's intention, then I'd like to offer this to you. Today, I choose to love and accept myself completely as I am. This can be a wonderful mantra to come back to as we begin to explore some deeper thoughts, some inner dialogue, and some stories that we've created about ourselves within our mind. Today, I choose to love and accept myself completely as I am. Let's take one long, deep breath together, in through the nose, holding for a moment at the top, and slowly letting out a sigh and exhaling. I invite you to do that a couple more times with the intention of clearing some thoughts and creating some space in your mind's eye. In a moment, I'm going to offer you some prompts, inviting particular thoughts and thought patterns into your mind's eye. As I do, I'd like to remind you that your thoughts are thoughts, not facts. Oftentimes, they are stories created by yourself or others that hold no truth. Some thoughts are meant to keep us small and fearful. And so if any of that smallness, that not enoughness, that fearfulness begins to arise within your body, take a moment to find your breath again. And when you do, you found the present moment. And you've given yourself the choice to begin again. Do this as many times as you need to. It's always waiting for you. Let's begin. How do you treat yourself when you've accomplished something throughout your day? What are the words that you're using with your inner dialogue? What are some key phrases that you continue to come back to after accomplishment or responsibilities are handled? And on the flip side of that, how do you speak to yourself if you didn't accomplish something? If a responsibility wasn't handled? If things didn't go as you planned in your mind? What are some key words and phrases you use to describe yourself? How do you treat yourself on the good days? How do you treat yourself on the days where you've juggled so many different tasks and hats? You've shown up for so many different people. How do you treat yourself on the days where they end and you feel good? And how do you treat yourself on the bad days? On the days where you couldn't juggle it all successfully, where you maybe fell short, didn't finish on time, couldn't show up with the energy and the vitality that you would like to. How do you speak to yourself on the days that end and you feel poorly, disappointed? What are some key words and phrases you use to describe yourself then? Now take a moment to consider the way that you treat yourself on the not so good days, on the unplanned days. Consider the way that you describe yourself to yourself, the way that you speak to yourself inside your mind when things are hard and challenging. And ask yourself, would I speak to my loved ones this way on their hardest days? Are these the words I'd use to let them know and express to them how I'm feeling? Do I feel this way about others on their bad days? And if not, how would I treat a loved one who's having a hard time? How would I support someone I care about who's struggling or having a bad day? What words or phrases could I use to express my love, my understanding, and my support of them? I invite you to take a moment and share those words with yourself. Be the person that you care about. Send yourself love, forgiveness, patience, compassion, grace, and an abundance of non-judgment. Learning to see ourselves as important as someone that we love and care about is a crucial step in expanding our mind to believe that we are worthy of the hard things, worthy of love, worthy of the support and help and service that we so willingly, unconditionally offer to those around us. I invite you to place your hands on your heart center or in prayer position in front of your chest. And as you connect with your breath, the ebb and the flow, connect with the love that you have for yourself. With each inhale, allow compassion into your mind and your body. And with each exhale, let go of the words and the phrases and the stories that don't align with compassion. Trust that your heart center and your breath can allow this cycle of opening to what's meant for you and letting go of what isn't anymore. You don't need to think, you just need to breathe. Inhaling compassion and exhaling all things that no longer serve. In a moment, I'm going to ring the sound bell 3 times to signify the end of our practice. I encourage you to stay in this space for as long as you can and allow this feeling of compassion to be embodied and ultimately emanate from your spirit, from your energy, and into those that you interact with today. And just as we gently found our way into this practice, invite that same gentleness to bring yourself out by tuning back into your body with small movements in the fingers and the toes. And moving maybe to roll the shoulders and the wrists a bit. And in your own time, blinking open your eyes or raising your gaze and coming back into the room around you. I want to take a moment to thank you for sharing this space with me, for cultivating a mindfulness practice, and for prioritizing the time for your mental and emotional being. As a caregiver, I think it means a little extra to show up for yourself when it is so easy to show up for others. So I thank you, I acknowledge you, and I appreciate your time and your presence here. So again, I'd like to remind you that my name is Sabrina. I am a mindfulness teacher, a meditation instructor, and an intuitive healer. And all of these mindful caregiver breathing sessions are recorded and then posted onto Yoga for Caregivers YouTube channel. So you can check it out. I think this is session number 8. So we have a few more sessions to go before these breathing circles stop. But the beauty of this being recorded is that you can always tune into the practice and create it on your own. So thank you so much for those of you that have joined in. It was wonderful to share this space with you. And I look forward to seeing you at our next one. So wherever you are in the world, I'm sending blessings and peace to your corner. And I want to remind you that peace is always one choice away. And that choice is always in your hands. So keep coming back to the present moment, and you are doing way better than you think you are. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I did not realize I was so tight in my shoulders. I can't tell you what that message means to me, because I love to remind people of their body. And it's super important that we remember there's a lot going on. This is like especially where we carry tension and physical things, purses and backpacks. And so thank you for sharing that, and for becoming aware of your body. And hopefully you can move throughout the rest of the week and become a little more aware of where you might be holding tension. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope to see you guys in the next session. Have a great night.